Krishna, Nita Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining, giving a beautiful association. All glories to your services. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else who would like to introduce himself?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to all the devotees on the call. This is Harita from Missouri City, Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Harita Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much for joining and giving a beautiful association today. Hare Krishna. Was this recording started, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, I will start recording.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Once again, I welcome you all for this mid-morning session, Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. I would like to start by sharing a quote by Srila Prabhupada ji. One of the symptoms of a devotee is that he is kind. If our God brother becomes ill, it's our duty to help him get the proper medicine and treatment so that he can recover. There is no question of ill-treating of our own God brothers simply because they are sick, nor should we allow such neglect to go on. So long we have this material body, there will be sickness, but we have to remain on the transcendental platform nevertheless. Letter to Sukhdev, April 5th, 1974. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Good morning, dear devotees. I welcome you all to Bhakti Sangha Japa call. Today we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Mataji will be enlightening us on the topic of Madhurya Kadambini, session 10. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Kirtida Sundari Mataji, thank you for giving your valuable time and beautiful association this morning. Looking forward to hearing from you, Mataji. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Please take over the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shivani Mataji, for your very, very warm welcome. Thank you, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, for your beautiful recitation of 8th chapter. Thank you, everyone, for your very, very kind association. So we'll move on. We'll chant the Mangalacharan verses, and then we'll go ahead with our section of Madhurya Kadambini. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadanti. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamelam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchatattvatakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavtaram Bhaktakhya Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Vanchakalpatarubhescha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshadari. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Guruve Gaura Chandrai Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namo Ananda Leela Maya Vigrahaya Hema Bhadevya Chavisundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Mukam karoti vachalu pangam langayate giram yatkripaha tamham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinu Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwar. So we'll recite the Mangalacharan, Madhurya Kadambini. Ritva-prena-va-bhakti vitate Ritva-prena-va-bhakti-shasya vitate Sanjeevani swagamam Rambhe kamatapartudhamadamani Vishvapagolasini Duranme marushakino pisarsi Bhavaya bhuyat prabhu Shri Chaitanya Kripa Nirankushamaha Madhurya Kadambini. Yes, Anita Mataji, please go ahead.
Mataji, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
ऋत्वा प्रेणवभक्तिशस्य वितते सञ्जीवने स्वागमा रम्भे कामतपर्तो दाहदमनि विश्वापगोलासिनि धूरान्मे मरुशाकिनोति सरसे भावाय भूयात् प्रभु श्रीचैतन्यकृपा निरङ्कुशमहा माधुर्यकादम्बिनी.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for reciting it so nicely. So yes, we are in the section of Madhurya Kadambini and we have been covering the anarthas, anartha nivritti. We are in the third shower and we are covering this anartha nivritti, but we have not reached up to the nivritti part. We have just highlighting on anartha part. And through anarthas, covering the anarthas, we came to different namaparadhas. So we'll continue with that, and I'll seek all your blessings, prayers, so that I can speak something relevant to all of you, so that your valuable time is not wasted, and you, along with me, can gain something from this section. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Third shower of nectar, eliminations to the impediments of bhakti. The four anarthas we saw, the four types of anarthas that arise from dushkrita anarthas, sukrita anarthas, aparadhita anarthas, and the anarthas bhakti-yuta, which we have not even touched upon. So we are still in the third section of aparadhita anarthas, where we commit aparadhas. And for discussing aparadhas, namaparad, we have covered the first three namapradas. Okay, and what are those first three namapradas? Satam ninda namna paramam aparadha vitanute yata khyate niyatam katham tu ussahate tad vigaraham. That is sadhu ninda. Then Shivasya Shri Vishnu Nyaya Guna Namadi Sakalam Dhiya Bhinnam Pashyet Sa Khalu Hari Namahita Karan. So I'm hoping that understanding all these, at least these two, in detail, what we have done. Now, when we read this Sanskrit, it makes so much sense, I'm hoping. It makes so much sense. Previously, when we read first time, it doesn't make sense because we were so used to reading the English translations only. But now, when we read Sanskrit, each and every word makes so much sense and it's so much clear. So this is what happens when in association of devotees, we discuss the scriptures. It becomes so much clear. So first two lines is the first aparad, second two lines is the second namaparad that we have already covered. Now the third aparad, that is Guru Avagnya, that also we have covered. we'll come to the fourth aparad, that is Shruti Shastra Nindanam. Okay. Then the fifth aparad will be Tatharthavada, and the sixth offense will be Harinamni Kalpanam. Then seventh offense will be Namno Balad Yassai Papa Buddhi Na Vidyate Tasya Yamer Vishuddhi. So I'm planning to cover till seventh offense today, but I don't know, Krishna willing, we'll see. If the time doesn't allow, then whatever offenses we may be able to cover, we will see. Otherwise, we'll stop in whatever we are covered in 1 hour. So moving forward, now we are on the fourth offense. And what is the fourth offense? The fourth offense is Shruti Shastra Nindanam. Right? When we, English translation, we know to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. So this is the translation that is given to us by Srila Prabhupada, to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance to the Vedic version. But in Sanskrit, as per Hari Bhakti Vilas, it says the fourth offense is Shruti Shastra Nindanam. Now, what are these Shrutis and what are these Shastras? So we know the Shrutis. What are Shrutis? They are Aupaurushal. They are coming directly from the Supreme Lord. And Smriti Shastras are those Shastras that comes from Shruti Shastras, right? When those Shastras are written by somebody in their Samadhi Lila, in their Smriti, when they get those realization, they are known as Smriti Shastras. So now in this offense, the author, our Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is explaining this fourth Namaparad, to blaspheme the Shruti and Shastras. Now those who have already taken shelter to Bhakti, those who are on this path of Bhakti Yoga, somehow there are some people those who are on this process of Bhakti Yoga, on this path of Bhakti Yoga, they blaspheme the scriptures. Now we can say, well, we don't blaspheme, but there are some who blaspheme these scriptures because these scriptures deals only in karma, jnana, and yoga. And they do not glorify bhakti or devotional service unto the Lord, and describing or glorifying the devotional services like Shravana, Kirtanam, and all the other 9 processes. So because they do not glorify these processes and those scriptures that deals only with karma and jnana and yoga, we think, or the Bhakti yogis think, that they can be condemned because they think that it is all mundane. Because anything that is related to karma, jnana, and yoga is actually till this material world. Because the outcome is just to get some results of their fruitive activities. So in this way, they condemn the Shruti and Shastras. They condemn these Shastras. So we have to understand that, yes, no doubt that these Vedas mainly deal into this karma kanda activities, or some part is jnana kanda. But still we have to understand Vedescha sarve aham eva vedyo. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that after studying Vedas, we got to know Krishna. We ought to know Krishna. Why is it so? Because it has been explains that Veda Gopya is Bhakti Yoga. Just like the most confidential knowledge of Bhakti Yoga is being embedded in the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita as to be the center chapter, 9th chapter, which is the most confidential topic of Bhakti Yoga, that is embedded in this entire 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Because, and the most beautiful celebrated verses are there in the 9th chapter, where Krishna very boldly declares that you follow me, you surrender unto me, manmana madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, then I will take you. So he gives the process, he gives the sambandha, he also gives the prayojana. Similarly, these Vedas, we have the entire Vedas, right? Veda Gopya. But the most confidential knowledge in the Vedas is Bhakti Yoga, which is embedded in the Vedas, which is not truly exposed to each and every one of us. Because everyone is not eligible to approach that section of the Vedas if they have a different mindset. Now, if somebody who is a jnani, so what they will get is that they will get the knowledge through which they can go and get merged into impersonal Brahman. Now imagine if that jnani, if he gets the association of devotees, then what will happen? He will understand that the scripture that he was referring to was actually giving the significance of Brahmananda. Okay. So the bliss of mukti subsides when he comes in contact with the devotees and get the excellence of bhakti. So similarly, if somebody who is a karmi, if they go and approach the Vedas, then they will be simply absorbed because they are totally into sense gratification. They are into this, whimsically, they are absorbed in sense gratification. They perform their actions just to get the fruitive results from that. So when they approach the Vedas and they perform certain sacrifices, some vows, then they will somehow rise to the level of bhakti if they come into the contact of pure devotees. So what this Shruti Shastras, those who are actually the Shastras that are related to Jnana and Karma, they actually help. They attempt to raise their practitioners on the path of bhakti. So there is no harm if somebody who is on to the lower level naturally will go step by step. And if they are going step by step, that doesn't mean that we condemn their Shastras. That should not be done. So therefore, when we condemn those Shastras, we should understand that we are committing a Namaparad. Because we are condemning those Shrutis and Shastras which are apaurisha, which is not written by some Purusha, which is not that Purusha which has the 4 defects. They are apaurisha. They are coming from the breathing of the Supreme Lord. So how can those Shrutis and Shastras be condemned? So we have to understand that these Shrutis and Shastras, they do not encourage the people to go to some heavenly planet or to merge into the impersonal Brahman. Their point is to tell them that how these are inferior, but there is something superior to achieve. So when they go and understand that inferior thing, only then they will understand that there is something superior. So these Shastras, they actually maintain these people to at least stay on the path of dharma. And then when they get the association of devotees, then they know that what is the ultimate goal. So therefore, we should not condemn any Shruti, any Shastras. And if we are doing it, then we should warn ourselves that we are committing offense. We are committing a Namaparad. Now, there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita which says, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistaraigunyo Bhavarjuna, Nirdvando Nitya Satvastho, Niroga Shema Atmavan. So Krishna says, Traigunya Vishaya Veda. This Veda, mainly deals with the 3 modes of material nature. That is goodness, passion, and ignorance. So Krishna is saying, Nistaraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Now people interpret, they say that Krishna is saying, oh Arjuna, therefore reject these Vedas. Why? Because these Vedas only deal with the 3 modes of material nature, which is limited to this material existence. So rise above them and reject these Vedas. But nowhere Krishna is saying that reject these Vedas. That was the philosophy of Lord Buddha, who came for a specific reason and said that reject the Vedas. But Krishna is not saying. What Krishna is saying, Nistrai Gurnyo Bhavarjuna, that you have to rise above, be transcendental to these three modes of material nature. Be free from the dualities, from all anxieties of gain and safety, and then be established in the self. So he's not saying reject the Vedas. He's not blaspheming the Vedas. He's saying that you have to rise above the Vedas, means you have to come to the understanding where that Bhakti Yoga aspect is embedded in the Vedas. That's why Krishna says, Vedascha sarva ahameva vedya. That to understand me is actually the conclusion of reading and understanding the Vedas. So we should never ever blaspheme the Vedas. And not only the Vedas. Then it says the Panchamo Vedam. And what is that Panchamo Vedam? Itihasas and Puranas. This is the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Rik Yaju Samartha Vakya. Vedas Chatvara Uddharata. Itihasa Puranam cha Panchamo Veda Uchyate. That the four divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, we know, Rig Ved, Atharved, Yajurved, and Samaved. They were made separately. So initially, we know that there was only one Veda, and that was Atharvaved. But then our Krishna Dwapa and Vyasadeva, he divided that Atharvaved into four different sections. But Itihasas and Puranas, the historical facts and the authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are also known as Panchama Veda, are also known as the fifth Veda. So in Chandogya Upanishad also it has been mentioned, Itihasa Purana Panchamo Vedanam. So we have to understand that this Panchama Veda is Itihasas and Puranas. So that means that we should not even criticize these Itihasas and Puranas. So sometimes when people, till now, till today, if you go, because of the influence of the Westerners, if you go and ask in India, especially to the youngsters these days, they will say that this is all myth. They call it as mythology, right? But that's not true. That's the wrong understanding. So to criticize even the Itihasas and Puranas is actually come under this section of Shruti Shastra Nindanam. To criticize the Vedas, to criticize the Shruti and Shastras. The Itihasas and Puranas also comes under this category. So we are not supposed to even call these as mythologies. They are not. They are historical facts. And these historical facts and authentic stories are there in the scriptures and the Puranas, just so that we can have the right understanding. But yes, then those Puranas are also in different modes. We have Devi Puran, we have Shiv Puran. They have their own objectives. But we as Bhakti Yogis should be very, very careful that we should not even criticize these Devi Puran and this Shiva Puran or Vishnu Puran or any other Puranas, whether it can be in mode of ignorance or it can be mode of goodness. We have to understand that they are meant for specific kind of people so that they can have their own parachute to land. So don't take their parachutes. After all, even if they are following that Puranas, they are still on the path of Dharma. So these Itihasas and Puranas are also giving us some kind of moral values through which we can commit ourselves to stay on dharmic principles. Therefore, these Vedas should never be rejected, should never be criticized. Now, there are Vedangas. There are 6 limbs of Vedas. One is Shiksha. Shiksha means that shiksha, that one limb which is known as shiksha, it deals mostly in the study of phonetics and pronunciation. So when it comes to phonetics and pronunciation, we have to understand that this is also a limb of Veda. We should not pass criticism. What is the use of pronouncing and learning that Sanskrit? So what? It just matter is what your bhav is what matter is your what bhakti you have. How does it matter how we pronounce it, how we pronounce the word? No, it does matter. It helps us. Yes, the principle of bhakti yoga is above all this, but condemning that part of the Vedas is actually an anamaprad. So we have to be very careful. If somebody is mastering in shiksha, or like next is chandas, that how we have to sing that particular verse in a particular meter. After all, everything is coming from the Vedas. Yes, Krishna will not take anything if I don't recite a particular verse in a particular meter. If I'm reciting a particular verse in some different meter, which doesn't sound that wonderful while we are singing, Krishna doesn't take that. Krishna will take only the essence or my intention. But if I recite it in a proper meter, even I will feel happy. And of course, it will be more melodious to hear. So therefore, this shiksha, chandas, and those who says vyakran, so what's the use of understanding grammar? No, if we want to study a particular language, we should know its grammar, whether it's Bengali, whether it's Sanskrit, whether it's any language it is. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, that the time will come when these Westerners will come and they will learn Bengali to understand Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this Vyakran is also the part of Vedas. We have to understand that, and we don't have to condemn. What is the use of grammar? What is the use of wasting time in understanding that Sanskrit grammar? Read Prabhupada books, read Prabhupada's translations, and you will get to know. Yes, you will get to know. But if we read it properly, if we understand it properly through those grammatical things, then we will be able to relish it more. So nirukta is the study of etymology, where that word originates from. Kalpa is ritual process. Jyotish Shastra, astrology. People these days, they condemn this astrology. No use of this astrology. No, that's not true. Even Garga Muni saw that astrological chart for Krishna and Balaram. Even for Nimai, this chart was seen by his grandfather. So these are the limbs of the Vedas, and they should not be condemned. They should not be condemned. And it is being mentioned that how Shiksha, which is one of the limb of the Vedas, represents the nose of the Supreme Lord. Chandas represents the feet. Vyakran refers to the mouth. Nirukta establishes Nirukta is actually the ears. Kalpa is the arms, and Jyotish are the eyes of the Supreme Lord. So condemning these Shastras is condemning the different limbs of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, if we condemn these Shastras, if we criticize these Shastras, these Shruti Shastras, Vedangas, Vedas, Panchama Vedas, Itihasas, Puranas, then we have to understand that we are committing Namaprana. Yes, our process is to rise above and come to the conclusion that how Bhakti Yoga is the most easiest and the definite path. But that doesn't give us the adhikar to criticize the other limbs or to criticize the Shastras. That doesn't give us adhikar. So therefore, Hari Bhakti Vilas mentions this as Namaprad if we are condemning any Shrutis and Shastras. Shruti Shastra Nindanam. Prabhupada says to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Why he gives that definition? Because that encompasses all the Itihasas, Puranas, Vedangas, everything in pursuance of Vedic version. That also has to be avoided. We don't have to criticize them. So that covers our fourth Namaparad, that is Shruti Shastra Nindana. Now we will come to our fifth offense, fifth Namaparad, and that is known as Tatharthavado, Tatha Arthavado. Okay, so we know that how the English goes. English is to consider the glories. I'm sorry, it has to be. Sorry, why it got it? To consider the glories of the holy name to be an imagination and exaggeration. Okay, that is an offense. To consider the glories of the holy name to be an imagination or exaggeration. That is what is Arthavad. So now we have to understand what is Arthavad. Okay? I don't know if you all have come across to this word ever, but I haven't before last year. So last year, when His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu was here in Charlotte, he gave a whole seminar on this 10 offenses. And there, I really got in depth of these understanding of these 10 offenses, and especially this fifth offense of Arthavad. So he very wonderfully explained. And it's a beautiful, the seminar that he gave. So definitely what I'll be speaking is what I learned from him. So this is Arthavad that explains. So actually, let me first, and what is Arthavad? So Arthavad, it means exaggeration or hyperbole. Okay, somebody saying we also heard in Bhagavad Gita about Arthavad. So Arthavad means exaggeration or hyperbole. So in Shastras, there are somewhere mentioned about the looks like they are exaggeration. Okay, we will see in detail. But actually, why Arthavad is used in the Shastras is to encourage people to perform certain religious act. And sometimes these Arthavad is used in a criticism just to discourage the irreligious acts. Therefore, this Arthavad is used in the Shastras. But the glories of holy name, it says, right? The fifth offense says that to consider the glories of holy name to be exaggeration or imagination is actually an offense. So that means the Shastras have also glorified the holy name. And we know, extensively we know, you must have come across so many verses that describe the glories of the holy name. And the glories of the holy name, they are unlimited. It is being mentioned that nobody has yet completed glorifying the holy name. So glories of the holy name are there in the scriptures. But if somebody thinks that these glories of holy name, they are there in the scriptures so that people can develop some taste towards the glory name, that is not true. That is what is Arthavad. Okay, we'll see in more detail. So Arthavad, there are of two types. One is Stuti Arthavad and another is Ninda Arthavad. When in scriptures this exaggeration is mentioned so that it encourages the people to perform certain religious acts, it is known as Stuti Arthavad. Okay, we'll see the example. In Taittiriya Brahman Upanishad, it is being mentioned that by performing the final offering to the sacrifice, which is known as Purna Ahuti, the performer fulfills all his desires. Now, why this is Arthavad? This is an exaggeration. That if somebody performs the Purna Ahuti in the fire yajna, then the performer who is performing that Purna Ahuti, his all desires will be fulfilled. Now, this is not true. Imagine if the fire sacrifice is going on and you have not attended that fire sacrifice, and in the last you come and perform the Purna Ahuti, and then you say that all my desires should be fulfilled. Well, that will not be the case. That is what is Arthavad. Why it is then mentioned? It is mentioned to give the importance of coming in the fire sacrifice and performing at least Punahuti. Okay, so this is just an exaggeration so that the devotees can come and perform this Punahuti. This is known as Stuti Arthavad. Now comes the Ninda Arthavad. So it's been mentioned that all animals are also animals. Other animals, they are animals. But Vedas, they critique them, saying that the purpose of yajna, for the purpose of yajna, other animals are lower than horses and cows. So they critique other animals, saying that those animals are in the lower grade. But they are criticizing. Actually, every animal is just an animal. But Vedas, they critique that all the other animals are lower than the horses and the cows. Therefore, cow sacrifice is not recommended these days. So hence, they are not suitable to be sacrificed in yajna. So the animals are critiqued on this basis. And by critiquing these other animals, the superiority of Ashwamedha Yajna and Gomedha Yajna is proven in the Shastras. So this is known as Ninda Arthavad. When that exaggeration is mentioned so that it discourages the people to perform irreligious acts. Okay, so this is what is Stuti Arthavad and Ninda Arthavad that is being mentioned. So Arthavad is basically a statement in the Vedic literature which either glorifies or criticizes a certain act. But for what? For the purpose so that people can be engaged in dharmic principles and should not be engaged in adharmic principles. That is the only purpose. Now, there is also a verse, like it says that a person who gives annadan to a brahmana, he becomes worshipped in the planet of Indra as many years as the number of grains he donated. So His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu actually mentions this. But that doesn't mean that if I go and give this annadan, then as many as grains I have given, I will be worshipped in the planet of Indra as that many years. Now, this is just an exaggeration. This is just an arthavad, so that we get this tendency of donating or doing annadan. Okay, this is just mere an exaggeration. But this arthavad, there is no arthavad in holy name. When the scriptures, they glorify holy name, they mean it. There is no exaggeration. Okay? There is no arthavad. And if somebody thinks that there is an arthavad or there is merely an exaggeration in holy name, so that the devotees or so that the people are inclined to chant Krishna's name, it's namaparad. I hope it's clear. It's namaparad. If somebody thinks that the glories of the holy name is exaggeration or hyperbole. Hyperbole means excessive exaggeration that is being mentioned in the Shastras. Now we will come and see some verses from the scriptures that describe the glories of the holy name. Namno hi yavati shakti papa nirharane hare tavat kartum na shaknoti patakam pataki naraha. This, I know many of you know this verse. This is from Brihad Vishnu Puran. That simply by chanting one holy name of Hari, a sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he is able to commit. Now, someone can say, well, it's just the matter of one holy name of Hari, and we have been chanting for so many years or so many months. So this is not an arthavad. We'll understand what does it mean then. So this is not an arthavad. If the scriptures are saying that simply by chanting one holy name of Hari, a sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he is able to commit. This is not an arthavad. Chanting the holy names of Lord Janardana will certainly destroy heaps of sinful reactions when simply by remembering the holy name of the Lord, even while dreaming, all of one's accumulated sinful reactions are eradicated. We'll see more. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yan nama shruti matrena bhuman bhavati nirmala tasya tirtha pada kimva dasa nama vishashyate. What is impossible for the servants of the Lord? By the very hearing, just hearing of his holy name, one is purified. Then there is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Again, you all know this verse. Damshri damshrat hodom lecho ya ha rameti punah punah uktvapi muktamapnoti kim punah shraddhaya grinam. So there is a mlecha who was being killed by the tusk of a boar, and he chanted these abominable words, haram, haram. But our Supreme Lord, he took it as haram, haram, calling out the name of Rama. And then he attains liberation. Then what to speak of those who chant the holy name with veneration and faith? So a mlecha, just by chanting haram, haram, Krishna took it as hey Ram, hey Ram. What to talk about us when we are chanting with so much of faith, with so much of helplessness? So will Krishna not hear? Yes, Krishna will hear. And that person, just by chanting, he attains liberation. But we are still here in this cycle of material existence. So are these arthavad? It says, Sakrit Ucharitam Yena Harir Iti Aksharam Dvayam. These two akshar, Dvayam, what? Hari. If once chanting the name of the Lord, which consists of two syllables, Hari, one guarantees his path to liberation. Baddha parikrastena mokshaya gamamam prati. Now we see that all these are the glories of the holy name. But none of this thing we feel in our life. We don't feel purified. We are still not liberated. We are still in this cycle of material existence. So that means that, is it arthavad? It is just mere an exaggeration, what the Shastras mention, but ultimately nothing happens. It's just an exaggeration so that we get encouraged to holy name. No, that's not the case. That's really not the case. We all are purified. We all are liberated. Now, what is left is just the matter of time. Okay, it's just the matter of time. The example is given that if somebody, like if I say that I'm going to Canada, okay, now another person comes to my home and asks my family members about me, where I am. Naturally, they will say that I have gone to Canada. They are saying that I have gone to Canada. But have I really gone to Canada? No. I may be still on my way to airport, or I may still be stuck in the airport, or I may still be waiting for my flight to board the flight for Canada. I may be to any of these different places, but what the person got to know is that I have gone to Canada. Similarly, when these verses, they say that one is purified, one is liberated, Yes, we are purified, we are liberated, we are simply stuck at some places due to our things, due to our karmas or due to our anarthas or due to any other you can think of. But we are stuck to a certain place. But that doesn't mean that I am not on my path to go to Canada. I'm still on that path on go to Canada. I have not reached yet. That's a different thing. But I am on the path of Canada. If I go to some other place and take a highway, I'm still on that highway and my destination is there, which I have put it in my GPS. Now, there may be some traffic jam, there may be some detour that I have to take, but I'm still on the path of my destination. So this we have to understand that all the glories of the holy name are not arthavad, they are not exaggeration, they are not imagination to provoke somebody or to bring somebody on the path of chanting the holy name. They are not. If somebody thinks this way, then they are committing this fifth namaprad, which is arthavad. And we are not supposed to commit this aparad. We have to avoid this aparad. So the glories of the holy name is actually, in real sense, is the glorification of the holy name. Now, why somebody commits this aparad? This aparad may be committed because of the lack of association. So when we are in the lack of association of sadhus and we just continue our chanting of the holy name and we don't get the desired results, we imagine that these glories that are mentioned, they are actually simply an exaggeration. We don't take them seriously. And this way we pollute ourselves. So taking full shelter of the holy name in the association of sadhus can help us to come out of this imagination and so-called exaggeration, because the holy name, the glories of the holy name is not an exaggeration. Okay, so this is the fifth offense that we covered. Now we will come to the sixth offense, and the sixth offense is Harinamni Kalpanam. Harinamni Kalpanam means to give some mundane interpretation on the chanting of the holy name. So this also means to give your own speculation on the chanting of the holy name, to give your own speculation, to give your own mundane things, your mundane interpretation on the chanting of the holy names. So we know the verse from Shikshashtakam where it says, Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smarane Nakala. Nam Nam Akari Bahuda. Krishna has bestowed Nija Sarva Shaktis, has bestowed his own Shaktis onto different names that he has. And Tatrarpita Niyamita Smarane Nakala. And there is no niyam, neither there is any time to remember these holy names. Translation says, O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and thousands of names like Krishna and Govinda. And in these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Tatrarpita niyamita smarane nakala. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But durdaivam midrisham ihajani nanuraga. I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. This is another verse. Na desha niyamas tasmin na kala niyamas yatha no chichtadau nishedhosti Shri Harir namni lubdhaka. This is from Vishnu Dharmotra, also mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas, where it says, O Lubdhaka, there is no consideration of time and place with regards to chanting the holy name of Lord Hari. As such, there is no harm in chanting the holy name of the Lord, even in a contaminated state. So there are no niyam, no time described in the Shastras for chanting the holy name. Now, if somebody gives their own mundane interpretation that you have to chant only in the Brahma Muhurta, you have to chant only in the early morning hours, or you have to chant certain number of rounds, which are not even mentioned. Okay, when we say 16 rounds, it is being given by a bona fide authority, Srila Prabhupada. So if he has said 16 rounds, that means 16 rounds. He is a bona fide authority. But other than if somebody gives their own interpretation that you cannot chant without taking shower, you have to chant only after taking shower. Without early in the morning, you just cannot pick your bead bags and chant. All these things are their interpretation. Okay, there is no interpretation mentioned in the Shastras. That we have to understand. That it's not that we will be deprived of Krishna Bhakti if we don't follow all this. It's not that. All these things, chanting early in the morning, chanting in Brahma Muhurta, taking shower, then chanting, these are all recommendations. They are all recommendations that we should follow. Why so? When we chant early in the morning during the Brahma Muhurta hours, that Brahma Muhurta is being mentioned because it is full of mode of goodness. So when it is full of mode of goodness and there is no other so-called distraction because the worldly life has yet not started. This life starts at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So at that time when we chant at 7, 8, 9, 10 or 12, then there will be a chance of distraction. Okay. So therefore, the recommended thing is to chant early morning. Then it will be just like an armor that is being worn by a soldier, and then the soldier can go out in the material world doing their 9-to-5 job, and then they will be protected. It will be just a wearing an armor. You are done with your spiritual activities. You remember the Lord early in the morning. It's just like wearing an armor. Then chanting extra rounds is also sometimes being told by some devotees, which is also okay, provided you are not doing it on the cost of your family life. If it is bringing some toll on the family life, then those extra rounds may not help. But extra rounds also helps in our way so that the name can continuously goes on in our mouth. So the thing is that always remember Krishna. Satatam kirtayanto, right? Krishna says. Yes, every time our tongue should vibrate this holy name. But that doesn't mean that whole day I take my bead bag and I sit. The name can go on in my tongue. I can vibrate the holy name. Right? So this is what it is, that when somebody forcefully puts some interpretation, that is a namaparad. All these things can be considered or can be given by the counselors or the mentors or the Shiksha Gurus or the Diksha Guru as a recommendation so that we can chant in a better way. Like sitting on one asana, chanting 16 rounds. Well, if somebody is sick, if somebody is not feeling well, or somebody has kids and they have to go school and you have to pack their lunch, you have to prepare their breakfast. And then if you pick up your beads and you say, no, I have to chant, otherwise I'll not go back home, back to Godhead. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Rather, finish up of your duties of being in a grahastha life. Send your children and then sit nicely and chant properly without any distraction. So that will be more helpful. So if somebody gives some interpretation and says that you will not achieve the goal of your activity or the perfection, then that is a namaparad. All these things are recommendations. If they are not recommendations and if they are really strict rules, then they should have been mentioned in the Shastras. But the Shastra says, Tatarpita niyamita smaranena kala, that there is no niyam, no time described or in the Shastras that you have to chant during this time, or this is how, or you cannot chant without taking shower. All these things are not mentioned. All these things that are mentioned by our superiors are just the recommendation. They are not the strict rules that have to be followed. The strict thing is what Srila Prabhupada mentions, chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regulative principles strictly. Strictly. They are the rules. Okay. Now we'll come to the 7th Namaparad, which will take time. And now it's already 11:54. So minimum 15 minutes it will take to describe the 7th offense, which is the most important of all the 10 offenses. So now I would like to take a poll from all of you. What do you all say? Should I stop here because it's 11:54? Or should I continue with the 7th Namaparad, which will take at least 15 minutes minimum?
Go on.
I
Go
want
on.
more.
Continue.
Yes, go on, Mataji.
Continue, Mataji. Continue.
Go on, Mataji. Yes, continue.
Okay, we'll go with the majority because you said so. We'll start with the 7th one. We'll continue. So this is the 7th Namaparad. And what is the 7th Namaparad? 7th Namaparad is Namno Balad Yasya Hi Papa Buddhir Na Vidyate Tasya Yamer Hi Shuddhi. Namno Balad Yasya Hi Papa Buddhir. Prabhupada says to commit sinful activities on the strength. Namno Balad. Balad means to strength. To commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. That is the offense. But Hari Bhakti Vilas also adds the second line, Na Vidyate Tasya Yamer Hi Shuddhi. There is no purification even through multiple yamas, that is disciplinary principles. Even if somebody follows those disciplinary principles, there will be no purification if somebody has committed that sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Now, what does this mean? See, when we chant the holy name, that is for sure that all the obstacles are destroyed. Now, if somebody thinks that, okay, I got this thing in my life, that by chanting the holy name, all my obstacles will be destroyed. So let me commit some sinful activities and then I will chant the holy name and that reaction of my sinful activity will be destroyed. If somebody has that kind of feeling, then that is a namaprad. That is a namaprad. By chanting the holy name, our weaknesses of our heart, our inclination to perform the sinful activities does not arise. But if somebody chants this holy name so that one can fulfill one's inclination to perform sinful activities, then that is known as namaparad. Now, the main point is Namno Balat Yasya Hi Papa Buddhir. Having that buddhi, having that thought process, having that inclination to perform papa, to perform sinful activities. What is pap? We have already described in detail when we were discussing that difference between aparadh and pap. Okay, so in short, pap is an activity which needs some atonement and which is forbidden in our shastras, in our scriptures. That is pap. Other than that, which is not mentioned in the scriptures as a forbidden activity, doesn't come under the category of pap. We'll give an example. Now, I am doing my devotional service. I am chanting 16 rounds. Every day in the morning, I chant 16 rounds. One day, I feel a terrible headache. because of which I am not able to wake up early in the morning. And then I chant my rounds later part of the day. But I do complete my rounds. Now, that doesn't mean that I have committed a pap. That is not a pap. So now when I'm chanting Krishna's holy name in the middle of the day, because I was not able to wake up early in the morning, and if I chant at that time in the mid-morning hours and ask Krishna, oh Krishna, I don't know what happened today. I don't know why my head was, I was having a terrible headache, why my head was spinning, and because of which I'm not able to wake up. Please help me so that next day I may be able to wake up and chant in the early morning of the hours. Now, when I pray like this, that is not a namaprad. That is not a namaprad. Or if we commit something which in other limbs of bhakti, that also is not a namaprad. Because I am not committing a pap. Here, specifically, it is mentioned, Namno Balad Yasya, on the strength of Nam. If somebody is performing papa or having that papa buddhi or inclination to commit sinful activity, those sinful activities which are forbidden in the Shastras, that is papa. It's not that if I have not eaten yesterday and today somebody made pizza and instead of taking 2 slices, I ate 5 slices of pizza. That doesn't become a pap. People say that eating too much in Krishna consciousness is pap. No, that is not a pap. It has been allowed. Eating pizza offered to the Supreme Lord Krishna is allowed. I'm eating more. That's a different thing. But it is allowed. It's not a pap. It's not a sinful act. It's not a forbidden act. Example again was given is that if a sannyasi, he is allowed to beg to maximum 3 to 5 houses. Now, if that sannyasi one day goes and beg from 10 houses, it doesn't become a pap. It becomes his bhogavritti because he wants more. The same sannyasi, if he goes and begs through 3 to 5 houses, but he doesn't get anything and ends up stealing from a store, that becomes a pap. And then performing that activity, he cannot say that I will chant and I will be removed from that sinful activities. No, that will become a namaparad now. Similarly, a householder, if that householder, suppose a man who is performing his bhakti, performing his devotional service, but somehow or other get this tendency of lusty desire and wants to enjoy or satisfy himself and approaches his wife, then that is not a pap. Because in householder life, sex life is officially allowed. It becomes his bhogavritti. If a sannyasi does it, yes, it's a pap. But if a householder does it, that's not a pap. It's his bhogavritti. And then when he chants and he asks the Supreme Lord to please remove this impediment of getting bhogavritti, that doesn't become a namaprad. Only it becomes an aparad when that householder, having that desire, approaches a wife or a woman outside his marriage, then that becomes his pap. Now, on the strength of chanting the holy name, he cannot ask for any atonement because he has committed a pap. So therefore it says, Namno Balad Yasya Hi Papa Buddhi. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini in the 3rd shower, in the 3rd Vrishti, has very, very extensively described the difference between Bhogavritti and Papa Vritti. So he says that don't think that if somebody is on the Nam, on the power of holy name, if somebody is asking for the Bhogavritti, so that his weakness of heart can be removed, so that he can get more strength and all these desires can be uprooted, then that doesn't become power. That doesn't become a nama aparad. But if somebody has an inclination to perform some sinful activities, then that becomes a nama aparad. Okay, this is what is being mentioned by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Now he says, na vidyate tasya, means there is no atonement, no purification. Na vidyate tasya yamer hi shuddhi. Even through multiple yamas or following disciplinary principles, that aparad cannot be nullified. Now we'll see what is the meaning of yama. The term yama referred to ethical codes or some disciplinary principles. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, these 12 yamas are described. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this is 11:19:33. Ahimsa satyam asteyam asango hrir asasya astikyam brahmacharyam cha maunam stairyam shama bhayam. So these are the 12 yamas. We know that yamas and niyamas are there. So the 12 yamas are described. Ahimsa, non-violence. Satyam, truthfulness. Asteyam, not coveting or stealing the property of others. Asango, detachment. Ri, humility. Asascha, freedom from possessiveness. Astikyam, trust in the principles of religion. Brahmacharyam, celibacy. Maunam, silence. Sthairyam, steadiness. Shama, forgiveness. Abhayam, fearlessness. So these are the 12 yamas that is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. And there are 12 niyamas also that is described in the following verse, 11:19:33 and 34. 34 it is mentioned. But in the 35, the next verse to it, Krishna mentions, this is the verse spoken directly by Lord Shri Krishna, and he says, Ete yamasa niyama. So he mentions that these are yamas, and others are niyamas. So in the previous slide, we saw that it says, there is no purification even through multiple yamas. All these yamas that we have discussed, if somebody follows this, but still have an inclination towards committing sinful activities, forbidden activities on the strength of Nam, then that becomes the Nama Aparad, and there is no atonement even if somebody follows these multiple yamas, these multiple disciplinary actions or principles. Then there is no purification, no atonement accepted. Okay, this is what Nama Aparad, it's been mentioned. But if somebody just is not able to do one's bhajan because of XYZ reason, then, and if somebody is asking the holy names to give some strength so that they cannot continue this and they're lacking in devotional service, rather they may get some strength so that they can come back to their services, that doesn't come under the category of Nama Aparad. It comes only when it is performed for sinful actions. Okay, when there is no intention of committing sins. If there is a slight intention of committing sins, then that becomes a Nama Aparad. Now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says another thing. He says that na vidyate tasya yamer hi shuddhi. So yamer, the word yama, is also being expressed as different, Yamarajas. So it is being mentioned that if somebody has committed a sin on the strength of the holy name, then there is no atonement, even if somebody is being punished by multiple Yamarajas. So Yama can also be referred to as Yamarajas, but Yamas are mostly, like, it's normally mentioned to the disciplinary actions or the disciplinary principles that is mentioned. So that will cover our 7th offense, which is to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. I hope I was able to make some sense. So we will stop here. and we have already discussed this. And then maybe next Friday, Krishna willing, we'll try to cover all the other three, that is 8, 9, and 10. So thank you all so much. Thank you for your very valuable association. And thank you for your attentiveness. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna. Yes, Vasudha.
Thank you, Mataji, for wonderful, wonderful class. Very grateful to you. I think Preeti Mataji unmuted, Mataji. Preeti Mataji, please go ahead.
Is it okay? I go ahead. Thank you so much. Brilliant class. Claps for you. Very nicely presented. I really loved the content and the clarity in which you presented all the rules, regulations, everything. It is so important for all of us to understand this in a very clear manner. So thank you so much. I did have a question. One question was when you were talking about this exaggeration. What about when Shastra says about if you do this, you go to certain hellish planets, there the punishment is like that. So what level of exaggeration it is, or it is as it is? How do you explain that? Or did you hear something from someone who explained it to you?
For anything, but yes, if those Puranas, those Shastras are saying this about like you go to this Kumbhi Park. Yes, in Park is being mentioned, right? If you do this, you will get this. So if anything is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, definitely it has not to be taken to be the Arthavad, but in one, it also comes under, I'm speculating, I may not be 100% right, but it also comes under the Ninda Arthavad, where it mentions so that we stop ourselves in committing those.
That's why I understand here.
But our Shastras also explain, especially in Garuda Purana, as we mentioned, that all these things do happen.
Yeah.
They do happen, right? When somebody is sent and you are fried in oil and you are burned in a fire. So it can be completely regarded as Arthavad. But yes, a little exaggeration, even if we consider to be an exaggeration, that's going to help us not to commit all these activities. So it may or it may not be, but definitely there is nothing in case of holy name. If we consider any exaggeration in the glories of the holy name, then that is Nama.
Beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. So at the end of the day, it's all positivity. If there is something that is positive, yes, it does. And something negative, oh, even that is going to help you to become better. Right? Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. I loved the class. I loved the way you spoke about these three aparads, and it was so enjoyable. And yeah, sometimes it is important to voice out and make things clear. So thank you so much for doing that. I love the class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Nitaji. So actually, I was also not very 100% clear on these 10 offenses until and unless I got an opportunity to attend these entire seminar in Charlotte that Hariparshad Prabhu gave. So after that, it was making much more sense. So,
Yeah.
yes,
Thank you.
Vasundhara. Mataji, please go.
Hare Krishna Mataji, 100 pranams as usual. Excellent. Thanks so much for being so clear. But I'm such a, I don't have so much intelligence to understand fully. So please excuse my question. One, of course, was the same question Preeti Mataji asked. So that's fine. I got her. The second one is in continuation of the same question. See, it's so difficult to understand, which are the statements made in Vedas an exaggeration, not an exaggeration, unless we hear the commentaries of acharyas. I mean, that's what I suppose is my understanding, right, Mataji? So without understanding the commentaries of acharyas, we'll not be able to make out which statement made in the Vedas need to be treated as an exaggeration or otherwise. Is that right, Mataji?
Yeah. Without the bona fide person, we cannot come to a conclusion whether that statement is an arthavad or it's in a reality. Yes.
Right.
So now what should we do?
Yeah, so we need to go with whatever the statements our acharyas would have spoken about it and follow them. So otherwise, we should not make our own imagination or assumptions with respect to the statements. A. B is that, again, there are different, what do you call, Sampradaya acharyas would have given different commentaries. Like you spoke about one of the verse, right? So each one of them would come with a different kind of their realizations, revelations, etc., etc. But we should always stick to our parampara acharyas to understand what they mean by that particular statement. Is that right, Mataji?
100%.
Okay, Mataji. Third one, I had the question was, I joined late, so I missed out. Probably must have answered, Mataji. So if it's okay with you, you can answer me. Otherwise, I listen to the video again. You spoke about those 6 limbs of Vedas, which is those grammar, nivritta, astrology, siksha, etc. So I joined at the last piece of that, wherein you said, as a devotee, we shouldn't be kind of, completely, what do you say, not offend or be offensive to these limbs of Vedas. But at the same time, I don't know, did you say that one needs to definitely, what do you call, to better understand the commentaries or the understanding of the verses, one need to have some knowledge about these limbs, is what you said, Mataji? Did I don't know if I understood wrong, right? Please correct me.
Sure, Mataji. So, Vasundhara Mataji, what I said that these are the bona fide limbs of the Vedas. So, if we are not having the knowledge of Shiksha, Chandas, Vyakaran, Nirukta, Kalpa, or Jyotish, that doesn't give us the adhikar to blaspheme them. It's not
Okay, Adhika. Okay, unless we have the knowledge about it, we shouldn't even speak, comment about those things, is what you said, right? Okay,
But that
so because
we have to study all these. We have to have the knowledge of chandas and vyakaran and grammar. No, there is no have to have thing. But
okay.
at least that doesn't give us the adhikar to blaspheme them. Don't blaspheme them, because these are the limbs of Vedas. Because people also say that bhakti karo, grammar padne se kya hoga, vyakaran kya hoga, bhakti mein. Hey, okay, bhakti. Yes, bhakti is, after all, the highest. All these are, all these principles that are mentioned in the Vedas, they are lower to bhakti. But that doesn't mean have the adhikar to blaspheme or to criticize them. Vyakaran padne se kuch nahi hoga. Bhakti is important. That doesn't mean that we don't read Vyakaran. Actually, study Vyakaran. That's going to help us more in our bhakti. We'll understand the verses in a better way. So,
but it's not compulsory. I mean, because we spend more time in learning that and not understanding the essence of this. So it's not compulsory for a devotee, right, Mataji?
yes.
Okay, but I have a small short question in continuation of this. See, I don't know much of, I don't have any gyan about, anything of this. Just what I hear, whatever based on my kind of understanding, I kind of chant the hymns, the verses. It can happen that, the right way of pronunciation is not the way I would have chanted, right? And we also understand in Rudrasur's pastime that a small, what do you call, incorrect pronunciation of the verse led to the otherwise, right? So how do we understand now? I mean, now, I'm kind of little taken aback whether I should chant the verse, because I don't know whether I'm chanting properly or otherwise. At the same time, we have the pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam. So what did you suggest, Mataji?
So in this regard, Mataji, I have already mentioned previously in previous classes, this point came up when we were discussing about these chanting of the mantras. When we are chanting the mantras for some karma kanda activities, for doing some fire sacrifice for a specific reason, then yes, these mantras have to be chanted in a proper way, in a proper chanda, with proper vyakarana, in a proper shiksha. It has to be chanted in a proper way. Otherwise, this is going to lead the otherwise, like you mentioned, that how he was, came, right? Now, if somebody is performing some devotional service. It's not a karma kanda activity, it is a devotional. So we mentioned that people normally chant Vishnaya Namaha, otherwise it's Vishnave Namaha. People chant Vishnu, but Vishnu doesn't take any offense. He gives what results are supposed to be given, because that is chanted with the mood of purification and the mood of bhakti.
Okay.
So this is what we are chanting from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, or the chanting of our Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Krishna doesn't go with the words, with the meter, with the chandas, with the vyakran. No. The Chinese, they cannot even pronounce ra. They say Hale Lama, Hale Lama. Okay, but Krishna hear their cries, their chant, because that chanting is directly from the heart. They are not doing it for some fruitive activities. But if somebody is doing a fire yajna and chanting Purusha Shukta, or to perform some fruitive activities, and if that is not performed properly in a proper pronunciation, then that may lead to some ill effects.
Okay. Okay. Got it, Mataji. Thank you so much. If you permit me, last one question, may I?
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, you excellently kind of reviewed all the offenses, the seventh up to seventh offense. Just this kind of a question came up to me. Please again forgive my agyan there. Suppose there is a kind of a nam aparadh committed, right? So you said there is no atonement. So, but there should be some kind of a solution. Is it again go for chanting? That's only the solution should be, because the highest the solution to the problem in this Kali Yuga is chanting. So if I do a chanting offense, nama aparadh, it should be again chanting only, right, Mataji? Or is it, I mean, I don't know. That's what I felt, because that's the highest solution in the Kali Yuga. So if there is a nama aparadh, where do I find the solution for that, Mataji? How do I find the solution?
Maybe for that you have to wait for next Friday when we commit all the 10.
Arre wow.
Not
Wow,
commit.
so that means there's a solution. Wow.
Cover all the 10 aparadhas, then Hari Bhakti Vilas itself will give us the solution that if we have
Oh,
a nam aparadh, what will be the solution? So let's
I
wait.
can't wait till Friday, Mataji. Give some hint.
You already
But
got the
it's so
hint, I
happy.
guess, right?
Sorry?
I said maybe she
Someone
already
said,
has the. I said she already has the hint. Why should she ask for hint now?
oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Preeti Mataji.
If
Thanks
we
for
are,
the hint.
see, if we are chanting offensively and people say that keep on chanting, that means we will be more offensive chanting. Right?
But means and end is the same, right? We have heard in other sessions also. Means and end is a chanting. That's the mean and that's a end, right? So going by that statement is what I just thought, but I thought there must be something else, because I've not heard Shastric inference, right? So from that perspective is what I sought your insight, Mataji. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to hear you. And I'm so fortunate to be in your association. Thanks again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for your association and your beautiful questions.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna,
Parikshit.
Mataji. Mataji, I just missed out on one point. You said that we have been chanting for so many years, and actually only one Nam is enough to basically. So why are we not able to, go back to Godhead with our so many chantings? I missed that point actually when you were explaining.
Some obstacles, right? Like when we go to a destination and we are on the freeway, there may be a traffic jam, there may be a detour, or sometimes our GPS messes up and we have to take another route, but at least we are on the path of our destination.
Okay.
Or
So
it
we
says,
cannot take that statement as literal statement that only one Shuddha Nam is or
no,
one Nam is enough to.
that's not it's a literal statement only, that one holy name can deliver you and bring you on the path of liberation. It's not an exaggeration. It's literally to be taken. If we
So-
consider to be exaggeration, it becomes a namaprad.
Yes,
Now,
then we are on the path of liberation.
we are all on the path of liberation. If Parima Mataji, I tell you chant Hari, and if you say Hari, you are on the path of liberation.
Okay.
You are liberated. You are on the path. It's just like that when you do a race. Imagine in the childhood we do a race and it says on a marks, get sets, and
Yes.
go.
Go. Yep.
On a marks, get set. We are ready. We are ready.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Depends on the time, inevitable time.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. It's tell me.
Glories of the holy name are to be taken literally. They are not exaggeration.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for your wonderful association and your wonderful, amazing classes. I look forward to Fridays. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Danvat pranam.
That's a blessing, because when I started this Madhurya Kadambini, I was thinking that this will be another session which will be very boring. But if you all are also with me and, getting some benefit, then it's really a blessing for me. Okay, anything else? Yes.
Yeah. If there are no more questions, we can end the call here. Once again, thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for such a beautiful class with the great details. I would like to offer my obeisances to Mataji and all the Vaishnavas assembled on the call. Vancha kalpatarobhyasya kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Nanta Koti Vaishnavi ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Her Grace Sundari Mataji ki Jai.
Jai Ho.
Thank you, Mataji.